All right, so scientists, as you continue your exploration about solar noon in your digital notebook on page 1E7, you are going to be doing this set of tasks as a group. Please notice that our focus question is, how would you describe the rotation of the Earth? And in order to answer this question, we are going to be using data to inform our response. This activity, or this portion of the activity, is divided into two parts. Part one is the group visual, and part two is the analyzing of our data. In part one, we ask you to brainstorm and create a visual representation of solar noon in Seattle in the space below. We are talking about this space here. You're going to click on the image and select Edit. When you are making your visual representation, you need to include several things in your model. So if I click on this, once I click on it, it will highlight the entire image, and I come down here and select Edit. Once I am in the edit mode, I can add different things. So I know that I have to have the sun, Earth, Seattle, Earth's rotation, and the time. So I'm actually going to add that time it takes for one rotation. Okay, so I'm going to be filling in this box right here with the illustration. And again, I need to be talking with my partners. So in my team, I might say, what do you think about this? Other person in my group, what do you think? Where do you think we should? Anyone have an idea how we might? Etc. So you might insert a shape. For example, I would likely use a circle to represent the sun, and I can fill it with whatever color. And then we could add another circle to represent Earth. And I could fill that. All right, so now I have the sun and Earth. I would need to indicate where Seattle is at solar noon, and then showing Earth's rotation and the time it takes. Okay, so we could be using our scribble tool. We could be using other shapes. You can add text boxes, but you do want to be thinking really completely about this. Another way to represent what's happening is to use perhaps a line graph similar to the solar noon line graph on the front of the page, or rather on your digital notebook page. So perhaps you would mark different points in time along this line and add what we would be seeing and expect at those times. Once you're done, you just simply hit save and close, and you will have the information there. So that completes part one. For part two, you need to analyze data. You're going to work with your group to analyze the data. So look at the solar noon data. What do you notice? So I'm going to come down here, my solar noon data for October 2016 to 2020. Okay. So I am just going to take a few minutes in my group by myself to look at this information. It's always important to look at the labels for each section of the data table and general information then in each column. So it tells me here my year span. I notice that the most recent year is at the top and the least recent year is at the bottom. I notice here that there are 3 different days for each year. And I see the time that solar noon occurred. Remember, solar noon doesn't actually happen at noon, usually. And then the average solar noon time. Once I have done that, I will then work with my group to decide how we want to represent this information in a graph.